You are live.
All right, thank you very much, and welcome everybody to the very special meeting of Halifax and West Community Council along with Northwest Community Council to deal with a specific issue and a public hearing for tonight. We're just going to quickly go around the loop here, make sure that everyone's audio and video are working. So when I call your name, just give us a shout out and let us know that you're here. Councillor Deagle-Gammon.
Madam Chair.
All right, perfect. And Councillor Mason?
Right here, present and accounted for, Madam Past Deputy Mayor, sir.
All right. Councillor Smith?
Here, I'm here. Mike.
Excellent. Councillor Cleary?
These people have been way too subtle. So just so everyone can feel and see the awesomeness of District 9, my background is the interior, which because of COVID is closed. It's the interior of the Dingle Tower. So if anyone wants that feeling of going up all those stairs to the top to have a look at the Northwest Arm, this is the place.
That's very cool, very cool. Councillor Morris?
I'm here. I should get a picture of the Fairview overpass, but I don't have it with me right now.
Maybe someone running across Dutch Village Road.
Okay.
Councillor Cuddle?
I am present, thank you.
Excellent. Councillor Stoddard?
Present.
Councillor Lovelace?
Good evening. I'm present.
Coming to us live from Vernon's Diner by the looks of things. Nice. I'm here. Councillor Russell?
Hello, and just so that anyone, to clear up any misconceptions, behind me is Russell Tower. Currently closed for admission, but it'll be open again back in the summer.
Perfect. And finally, Deputy Mayor Outfit.
And I'm in Faulty Towers.
Nice.
At least it seems that way some days. But anyway, and it's really neat to see Rapunzel there in District 9. So that's cool. Listen, I'm here and ready to go, and thank you, Chair.
All right, excellent. So everyone is there, and everyone's audio and video works. Selection of chair. I guess the formalities have been dispensed with, and I've been declared the chair for this meeting. Just to explain, it's not too often that we do these combined community council meetings, so that's why the selection of a chair is necessary for tonight. Looking for the approval of the order of business. Do we have a motion to approve the order of business as presented?
Councillor Cleary moves.
All right, moved by Councillor Cleary, seconded by Councillor Russell. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Call for declarations of conflict of interest. Anybody have conflict of interest? Now is the time to declare it. And seeing none, we are going to move on to item 4.1.1, which is case 22450, and it is amendments to the existing development agreement for Bedford West Sub-Area 9, Bedford and Halifax. And we do have Cresco with us this evening. Just to give you a brief outline of how things are going to go. To the members of the public, thank you for joining us tonight for this virtual public hearing. The order of events for this virtual hearing is going to be the same as if we were in person in council chambers doing this. We'll start with the staff presentation. We'll give the applicant an opportunity to present via telephone, and then normally we would go to the public hearing speakers list. We do have one of those, but just a reminder to all speakers and anybody watching from home that in order to have signed up as a speaker, the deadline was 4:30 yesterday. So we do have 2 speakers registered for the hearing for tonight. So and perhaps before we get to that, I'll ask the clerk if we have any correspondence related to this issue this evening.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We do have correspondence that was received for this case, which has been circulated to all members of Halifax and West Community Council and Northwest Community Council.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much. All right, so I guess we will start now with the staff presentation. Do we have staff on hand? Oh, Leah McSween, doing double duty tonight.
Good evening. I am Megan Mond, and I am the staff member who will be presenting on this case tonight.
All right.
So thank you and good evening, Madam Chair and councillors. As I mentioned, my name is Megan Mond, and I am a planner with the current planning group with HRM. So tonight I will be presenting for the public hearing for case 22450, which is an application to amend the existing development agreement for the lands on Hogan Court in Bedford. Next slide, please. The applicant is Cresco Holdings Limited, and the location of the site is on Hogan Court in Bedford, which is also known as Sub-Area 9 of Bedford West. The proposal is to substantively amend the existing development agreement to enable the reallocation of some of the commercial population density to residential on the land shown in red on this slide. Next slide, please. So the subject lands are located to the south of the intersection of Highway 102 and Larry Uteck Boulevard on Hogan Court. And to the southwest of the subject site is Kearney Lake and lower residential land uses. And to the southeast is currently vacant land. And then to the east and the north, there are a mix of commercial and multi-unit high-rise residential development. The image on the right shows the lands owned by Cresco Holdings Limited outlined in red. But it's also important to note that there are another landholder involved in this application. So the lands outlined in blue are owned by someone else, and they are also subject to this development agreement and the population density allocation. And so therefore, they would be asked to sign this amending agreement if approved. And I included the green line that you can see on that image on the right, and that represents the boundary between the Halifax plan area and the Bedford plan area, which is also districts 16 and 10. And so because this site straddles those two different districts that are part of two different community councils, that's why we're all here tonight for a joint public hearing. Next slide, please. So as I noted, the subject site is known as the Bedford West Sub-Area 9. So Bedford West is a large master planned area in Bedford and a small portion in Halifax. So again, that green line represents the boundary between Bedford and Halifax. And Bedford West is divided into 12 sub-areas, and each of these sub-areas is controlled through a development agreement. Next slide, please. So on your screen is a map of sub-area 9, and this is part of the existing agreement and illustrates the general land uses permitted on the lands. So the areas labeled GCB and GCA are designated for commercial development, and CMR1 is designated for commercial and or multi-unit residential development. And then the rest of the lands on there are for parkland, utilities, and infrastructure. So construction permits have been issued for several different developments on these lands already. So there is a 110 unit hotel with convention center on parcel GCB. And then on GCA, a permit's been issued to construct a grocery store. And then on CMR1, a 200 unit residential building is under construction. Next slide, please. So this is an image taken in July, so things have progressed a little bit more than that. It is taken from Hogan Court looking southeast towards that 200 unit multi-unit dwelling. That's at the southern end of the site. So on the left are the lands owned by Cresco, and they will be developed for commercial uses. And then if this agreement will be to be approved, the additional residential units will be between that multi-unit in the background there and that commercial area on the left-hand side. And then on the right side, across from the apartment building under construction, is an HRM-owned park. And at the forefront on the left is where the hotel is under construction. Next slide, please. So the lands fall under the Bedford West Secondary Planning Strategy within both the Bedford and the Halifax Municipal Planning Strategies. The subject site is zoned Bedford West Comprehensive Development District within both the Bedford and the Halifax mainland land use bylaws, and this zone requires that all development proceed by development agreements. So the existing development agreement was approved by Council in 2012 and permits a mix of residential and commercial development. The agreement was amended in 2015 to actually allow a density transfer to Bedford South. So they took some of the population density for these lands and switched it to the other side of the highway. And it was amended again in 2017 to allow for motels, hotels, and guest house uses. The agreement regulates the development of the site, including the land use, the built form, and the density. The proposal in front of you tonight is enabled by policy BW21D of the Halifax MPS and BW39C of the Bedford MPS. These policies enable the reallocation of density within the sub-area. Next slide, please. So specifically, the enabling policies states that within the sub-area, population may be redistributed through the sub-area provided the intent of all of the policies is maintained. So there are two policies, policy BW16B of the Halifax MPS and BW16A of the Bedford MPS, that state that the maximum permitted population density for this sub-area shall not exceed 1,476 persons. So for some context, other policies in the strategy speak to where specific land uses can be located and that a range of uses are permitted provided consideration is given to the design of the buildings and the site. And these policies were all addressed and deemed satisfied under the existing development agreement. Next slide, please. The policy and the existing development agreement prescribe the maximum density permitted on the lands at 1,210.5 persons. So the applicant is requesting to have up to an additional 72 multi-unit dwelling units for a total of 272 units, while keeping the existing overall population density the exact same. So in order to achieve those additional dwelling units, they're reducing the amount of commercial density on the site. So residential density, just to show how you get there in terms of units, it will be calculated at a rate of 2.25 persons per multi-unit dwelling. So 72 units equates to 162 persons. And density for each proposed development is reviewed at the permitting stage to ensure the proposals are within the allocated density limits. So this application is solely for the reallocation of commercial density to residential density. There's no increase to the overall density on the site. Next slide, please. So I like using these pie graphs to illustrate how the density is being reallocated. It gives a nice visual. So the blue in both of these graphs represents the commercial density and the green represents the residential. So the graph on the left shows the existing allocation of density between the commercial and the residential. And then on the right, it demonstrates that with that additional residential, there is a decrease in the commercial density. So the green piece of the pie is getting bigger, the blue is getting smaller, but overall the pie wouldn't be getting any bigger. Next slide, please. So in terms of public engagement, the level of engagement with consultation achieved through a public information meeting on November 24th, 2019, a mail-out notification, newspaper ads, web page, and signage on the site. The feedback generally included concerns about traffic, particularly the volume of traffic currently and anticipated in the area. And there were questions about whether Hogan Court will be extended down to County Lake Road, and general questions about what would be built on the land. We sent out 647 mailouts notifying residents about the public information meeting, and approximately 15 residents attended. We have received 2 emails and 9 phone calls, and the webpage was viewed 1,737 unique times since it went live August 2019. So this number is more than what was in the staff report because it includes the numbers of views since that report was written. Next slide, please. So as noted, the public did have quite a few concerns about traffic. There are concerns about the amount of traffic that already travels through Larry UTEC roundabout and enters and exits at the 102 on and off ramps. And there's concerns about how much additional traffic there could be in the area once development on Hogan Court is fully completed. So as part of the planning application, the applicant did provide us with a traffic impact statement. And that traffic impact statement was reviewed and accepted by both the province, so Nova Scotia Department of Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal, as well as HRM's engineers. I will note that the study was revised a few times throughout the process, including after the public information meeting. And that version of the TIS, the latest one, was on halifax.ca for the public to review since May. The traffic impact statement compared the anticipated traffic impacts for the reallocation of density to the findings for the original study completed for the concept plan for Hogan Court. The study looked at traffic generated by the proposal compared to the original trip generation estimates for the sub area to determine the impact of the density transfer and whether or not it would be similar. And the study concluded that the proposal will generate a minor increase in trips along Hogan Court. And the analysis of Larry UTEC interchange indicated that additional trips can be accommodated at the interchange. So within the scope of the planning application, the anticipated traffic impacts from reallocating density have been deemed acceptable by both the province and HRM. A review of each individual development will be done by development engineering at permitting. Next slide, please. The application was reviewed by Northwest Planning Advisory Committee, and they recommended approval of the application as it was presented to them on November 13th, 2019. Next slide, please. So in summary, the proposed amending agreement would enable the residential density to increase from 200 to 272 multi-unit dwelling units, which is equivalent to about 162 persons. The amendment would not change the overall maximum permitted population density on Hogan Court. This would remain 1,210.5 persons. Next slide, please. So staff recommend that Halifax and West Community Council and Northwest Community Council approve the proposed amending agreement, which shall be substantively the same form as set out in attachment A, and require that the amending agreement be signed by the property owner within 240 days. Next slide, please. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Megan, and thank you so much for Liam. So now is the opportunity, if there are any questions of clarification from members of council, just sneak it into the chat there and I'll call upon you, but not seeing any at the moment. Paul Russell has a question.
Thank you. I'm looking at in the report that we got earlier, I'm looking at Schedule K1, and I'm trying to resolve that against what you showed in your presentation as slide 6. And I just want to make sure that I understand the placement of the building that is currently under construction. And if I'm interpreting what you said correctly, Schedule K1 shows a 200-unit, 12-story tower on the far right-hand side. Is that the large building that we saw in the very background?
Thank you for your question. And through Madam Chair to you, Councillor, I'm just pulling up the Schedule K in the agreement to make sure I'm looking at the right image. Okay, so Schedule K in the staff report, so as part of the amending agreement, is just a conceptual master plan for the area. And so it was done back in 2012, and it was a concept for how the lands could be developed. And so they have followed that pretty closely in terms of the development that has already started. And so you're right, that multi-unit dwelling that you saw in that image on slide 6 is roughly in the same location as that multi-unit that you see at the very bottom of the development there that is 200 units and 12 stories.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Paul. Councillor Cottle, you have a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do. My question is about the reduction in the commercial, and I'm trying to. I've got a split screen here, so I can't tell you. It's very hard to tell you exactly which. Looking at the concept master plan, we see that there was a grocery store proposed, and there's still going to be a grocery store proposed with this amendment. So where does the reduction in the commercial come from?
Thank you. Yes, so the commercial density is calculated in kind of a complicated way that I struggle to wrap my head around and leave it to the engineers in Halifax Water to figure out. So how commercial density is calculated is based on 50 persons per acre, but ultimately it does come down to the wastewater and the sewer capacity of the infrastructure. So the concept design shows various commercial uses on that land, and as permits come in for that, the density calculations will be reviewed by staff to make sure that they're keeping within that maximum density. So different businesses will produce more wastewater. And so the grocery store so far is in, but say if there was a couple restaurants, that might bump them over. So I can't say for sure exactly that there might not be a certain building that's now not going to be built on the concept plan. It all comes down to the type of use and how much those uses kind of produce in terms of wastewater, and that would be reviewed at the permitting stage. Does that make sense?
It does. Well, I mean, what you say makes sense, though I don't see a substantive change in the commercial use between the original proposal and the amended proposal.
Right, so there is no change to that concept. The concept is just that, it's just a concept. So in the development agreement, there are specific requirements that a commercial development would have to meet in terms of setback from a property line, height, that sort of thing. The concept, they can follow that concept or they can change it as long as it's meeting specific provisions within the development agreement.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Deputy Mayor Altit.
Thank you, Chair, and I have a bunch of questions, but I just received an email, a charming email, from a gentleman who regularly charms me with his emails. And it says that the slide presentation is very slow. We do not see what is being discussed and what is being said. To the point, what is the point of this exercise if we cannot see what's important? Shame on you for this waste of time. Are we having any kind of a problem with the presentation not showing? Or I saw the presentation just fine. Has anyone experienced any problem with the presentation or with the not being able to see or hear anything?
No, nothing from this end, sir.
I can see it fine.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I'm sorry that gentleman is having this problem, but I don't know that there's a problem on our end. It seems to be working here. So I wanted to get back to what I wanted to speak about, and thank you very much for the presentation. I did receive some calls and emails about this over the last several months, and as staff mentioned, the connection to Kearney Lake Road, the concern about that, which isn't going to happen, was a concern. The HRM park remains, that was a concern that some people had. And of course, the traffic concerns, which the traffic study has addressed. And for my new colleagues, I'm yet to see a traffic study that has recommended that this will be terrible, don't do it, or this is going to be drastic, so we have to make significant changes. However, in this case, I think that they did look at it several times, and I think that the impact, there is an impact, neither, but it is somewhat minimal. And of course, people in the area are very excited about having a superstore that they'll be able to walk to from these buildings and neighboring buildings. The Sobeys there receives good traffic, and it is probably overcrowded with all the growth we've seen in the area. When it comes to the traffic concerns, I am very sympathetic to the folks that I have heard from, and it is not because so much the traffic on Hogan Court or the increase, but it is what I refer to as the third roundabout. Starting on Larry Utech, you have the first roundabout, which is actually owned by HRM. You then move into the one closest to the 102, which is owned and maintained by PIR. And then you have the third one, which is further down Larry Utech West heading towards West Bedford. And that is where Hogan Court joins, if you will, exit onto this roundabout. These roundabouts, I think I would have no problem saying are at capacity, particularly during rush. They're not that old. Tens of millions of dollars were spent by the developer of the province carrying this cost of the city. But they're at their they would certainly at their capacity at times. So I am sympathetic to that, and I have been in contact with my provincial colleagues because some changes are going to have to be made and some improvements to the roundabout, but they are not within our jurisdiction. This is owned and maintained by. There's also going to have to be some improvements made at the indirect section of the Kearney Lake Road and the 102 as well, because there's additional growth coming in West Bedford and along in front of Morse's Lake. And I believe those are that intersection have to be improved as well by the CCCs.
I'm going to make a point of order, I guess it would be here, Madam Chair. We haven't had the hearing yet, so I don't hear a question here.
Well, there's a question coming, and
I just worry when we haven't done the hearing yet, right? We have to.
Okay, so all right, so fair enough. So the question coming, we heard from the public about the concerns about this roundabout and about traffic. So the question is to staff, what discussions has staff had in addition to me with the province regarding this roundabout and the need for improvements to deal with this and other capacity? Fair comment from Councillor Mason.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you for your question. So within the purview of this application, it was sent over to the Department of Transportation to review the traffic impact statement that was submitted. And as I mentioned, there were a few revisions along the way that TIR specifically asked for as well. And so when it was deemed acceptable within the purview of this application, that was the end of the conversation that I had with TIR. Because those roundabouts, as you pointed out, some of them are owned by HRM, but the one closest to this development is actually owned by TIR. We left the ball in their court to note that there are developments happening here and that there have been concerns about how those roundabouts are functioning.
All right. Thank you very much. And just getting word from Theo Angel, who is head of rural planning, that she's watching this through a website and it's all okay. So she's not seeing any delays in the slides. So it seems that everything is working okay. Just for confirmation, this is being recorded and will be posted online at a later date, Madam Clerk?
Yes, that is correct.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much. So if you are having any troubles seeing this, you will be able to watch the recap of this meeting later on. Councillor Lovelace.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question regarding connectivity. While I realize that Hogan Court will not, from a roadway perspective, be connecting to Kearney Lake, is there an opportunity to connect for pedestrian biking through the Hogan Court Park? I note that there are bus stops on Kearney Lake just at the bottom of that park. And it would be nice for, I think it's essential for biking and pedestrians, walkers, strollers, whatever, to be able to access Kearney Lake Road from there. Is that in the plan? I didn't see it, but I just wonder if that's an option.
Through you, Madam Chair, to the councillor, thank you for your question. So there is a park at the bottom end of Hogan Court that is owned by HRM, and there is a trail in there. And my understanding is, so to the south, kind of to the southeast of Hogan Court, in the lands below that, there is actually an active application in for the development proposal for sub-area 10. And in there, I do believe that they had been doing some preliminary investigation into providing a connection to the park that's at the bottom of the sub-area 9 into sub-area 10. I think the grade is pretty steep in that park, and so it may make it challenging to actually directly go straight down from that park to Kearney Lake. but it may, there may be opportunity to extend the pathway in the park to sub-area 10 and then make its way down to Kearney Lake. But I'm not entirely familiar with what's being proposed, and it is still preliminary for sub-area 10.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much. Any further questions from councillors for just questions of clarification? All right, seeing none, looking for a motion to open the public hearing. Councillor Cleary, moving that we open the public hearing. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Declare the public hearing is open, and we now invite the applicant, the folks from Cresco, to speak on the behalf of this application, and you have 10 minutes to address Community Council. Who do we have on the line from Cresco? And just a reminder, you might have to hit, what is it, *6, I think, to unmute yourself.
Hello?
Hello, hi there. Is this Joseph or Farhang?
Hi. This is Joseph, and Farhang's here with me. Good evening, everyone.
Excellent, thank you. Welcome, and you have 10 minutes to address council, sir.
I'm going to spend about 10 seconds. I think Megan's done a wonderful job of presenting our case, and I believe all concerns from various citizens were addressed, so we're comfortable to move forward.
All right.
Of course,
I like
we'll
you.
address the questions if anyone has.
All right, like you already, short and sweet. Are there any questions of clarification from members of council for the applicant? I'll just have a look in the chat here. And I am not seeing any. All right, so no questions of clarification from members of council. So we will now turn to members of the public, and members of the public who have registered with the clerk's office for this application. You have 5 minutes to address the topic. I understand we have 2 people who have signed up, and we are going to start with Brian Murray. Mr. Murray, are you on the line, sir? Again, you might have to hit *6 in order to unmute yourself. Looking for Brian Murray.
Hello.
Hi, hey Brian, how you doing?
Hello.
Hello, is this Brian?
It is.
Excellent. You have 5 minutes, sir. Go right ahead.
Thank you. The information we received initially was that there would be a delay in what we would see versus what is being discussed. Contrary to what Mr. Othet feels, we were delayed. There was discussions of slide 3, or discussions, pardon me, of slide 6, and we're looking at slide 3. So there was a delay. Maybe other people didn't have a delay. You said there's only 2 people that want to speak, so maybe nobody else cares, but we do. We're concerned about the volume of people that are going to be living and dealing with Hogan Court. It's going to be gridlock. We see gridlock now. We're on the other side of the highway, and we see it every day. It is a concern, and I think it's only going to get worse when you put more people in there. I mentioned this at the meeting last fall that they held regarding the entire development of the area, and we were told that it wouldn't be an issue. Well, now there's a proposal to put more people in there with more units. I don't understand how you would not see it as a problem. If it's a problem now, to some degree, it's only going to get worse. And we're concerned there's going to be accidents. There's going to be a lot of damage, vehicles damaged. God forbid there should be people hit with cars. It's just a concern from a resident's point of view. We don't want to see it. It doesn't affect us personally. We're quite comfortable where we are. But that land over there, in our opinion, is being overdeveloped. Mr. Outfit doesn't see that. He thinks it's rosy. Good. I challenge anybody that's listening tonight, when that property is fully developed, drive over to that property at 6 o'clock in the morning and sit and watch the gridlock of people trying to get out of Hogan Court wherever they're going. It's one way in and one way out. It's not going to be good. I feel for the people that are moving in there. I really do. And Mr. Outfit, I hope you have a lovely evening. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Murray. We do have a second speaker who has signed up. We are now looking for Janice Zed. Janice, are you on the line?
Janice is not available now. She had to default. So I guess you're free to go.
Oh, okay. So Janice was with you, was she?
Yes, she
All
was,
right.
but she's got since the commitment yesterday, she's got tied up, so she won't be able to be involved.
Understand completely. Thank you, sir.
Thanks for including us.
All right, thank you. Are there any other speakers, public speakers? I don't see anybody else on the list. So I would now ask at this point for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved,
moved.
Madam Chair.
All right. Moved by Councillor Cleary, seconded by Councillor Russell. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. So now we can invite the applicant to respond to any comments that were made during the public hearing. I don't know, Joseph or Farhang, if you have anything you want to say in rebuttal to what Mr. Murray has said.
Can you hear us?
Yes, we can, sir.
No, we don't have anything to say in rebuttal. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. Any members of council who want clarification of anything that has been said? Not seeing any in the chat. Oh, all right. I am seeing some from Councillor Mason. Go ahead, sir.
Just quickly to staff. So Mr. Murray's concern was the traffic, but this doesn't change the on Hogan Court. But what's proposed isn't actually going to change the traffic. We're here to discuss where the development is allocated on Hogan Court and in that area. But ultimately, the traffic that goes through that roundabout isn't going to change. Am I reading this wrong? Just so I fully understand the issues, because I am not as familiar with this area as I am with other parts of, well, Halifax and West. No offense, you guys.
Yes, no, thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, to the councillor. So with that shift in the commercial density to residential density, that change in use does generate different traffic patterns. So that's why we did have that TIS completed. And the TIS did note, or sorry, the traffic impact statement did conclude that the proposal to shift in that density could generate a minor increase in trips along Hogan Court itself. But the analysis of the Lyra-UTEC interchange, which is where the big kind of problems are, did indicate that the additional trips can be accommodated at that interchange.
So when we say minor, what do we mean by minor in this context?
Good question. So the word minor was from our development engineering group. So I will leave it to the traffic experts to determine what is considered minor and not. It's not a whole lot, but I can't say the specific numbers. It was their lingo.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. Thank you. So because this is a combined meeting, we're just going to, and just to keep everything as clean and tidy as possible, we're going to separate out things for the debate. So I will call on Councillor Smith now, who will wrangle his colleagues on Halifax and West Community Council for the debate for that community council. Councillor Smith, are you with us? Councillor Smith.
I'm here. I couldn't
there we go.
I couldn't get my mic unmuted. I'm here.
Excellent. So yeah, so I guess at this point you can call for the debate for the members of Halifax and West Community Council.
Yep. So I will ask members of Halifax West if there are any questions or debate items, or if someone wants to call the question and we could vote.
Mr. Chair, just a reminder, you need to put the motion on the floor.
Okay, so thank you for that reminder. So would anyone like to put the motion on the floor?
I see Sean waving his hand.
All right, I'll give it to Mr. Cleary. Councillor Cleary, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just bring it up here. So I move that Halifax and West Community Council approve the proposed amending agreement, which shall be substantially the same form as set out in attachment A, and require the amending agreement be signed by the property owner within 240 days, or any extension thereof granted by council on request of the property owner from the date of final approval by council, and any other bodies as necessary, including applicable appeal periods, whichever is later. Otherwise, this approval will be void and obligations arising hereunder shall be at an end.
All right,
Is there
moved
a
by Councilor
seconder?
Clary, seconder, Councilor Mason.
I think Councilor Cuddle had
No,
it.
I was letting one of the new people do it.
Oh,
Councilor
okay.
Cuddle
All
did
right.
it.
Councilor Cuddle. Thank you for that second.
So,
I was
Mr. Chair, if I may, just say
Yep,
a few
floor
words.
is yours.
And with all the greatest respect and deference to my colleagues at Northwest, so the council and the planners who originally approved this development and the master plan should frankly be ashamed of themselves. It's absolutely atrocious planning and awful development. It's not, I'm sure Councillor Outfit knows what I'm about to say in terms of awful sprawl. It's not transit-oriented development. It's not friendly to pedestrians. It's not friendly to cyclists. It's not financially sustainable. It's not environmentally sustainable. I agree with Mr. Murray, but only partially in that it's not about the traffic in the local area that I'm concerned about. It's actually all the traffic that funnels down to the peninsula and downtown. I'm concerned about the traffic that comes for people who are working, at least outside of COVID and everyone staying at home, and all of the greenhouse gas emissions that go out into our environment from developments like this. So I can't support this, not because I really give two hoots about whether we do commercial or residential on Hogan Court, but if I vote yes for this, it's a tacit approval of the original development in the first place, which I can't do. So I'm voting no, not because I care about Cresco or Hogan Court, but because this development just sucks. So anyway, I've said my piece. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you for those comments, Councilor Clary and Councilor Cuddle. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so Sean, I can't say I disagree with you. My concerns at looking at this are, one, I really don't understand how the transfer of density here is really going to reduce the commercial use there. It looks to me as if a grocery store is a grocery store is a grocery store, and how many people go will not change. I also look at this and I don't see this as, even within itself, being a walkable, friendly community. I mean, the people who will be living in those apartment buildings, I don't see any sidewalks. I look at the entry to the commercial space. I don't see any friendly pedestrian walkability and, paths in here. It just looks like people needing to walk through parking lots to get to commercial areas. So, in terms of the concept of this as a whole, I don't think it meets the standards of a complete community or a mixed use community in terms of how people will actually enjoy and use this space. It's just a bit more of the same of what's happening on the other side of the highway. To the environmental piece, and I know that people have written the letters, the correspondence that I read, people were concerned about the environment. I don't see the contours on this, but Kearney Lake is right down there at the bottom of this development, and we have all of this surface parking which will be plowed, possibly salted. I'm very concerned about the impact of this development on the lake, and while there's some parkland there, I don't understand from the drawings or the concept at this point how the runoff from the surface parking lot will be mitigated through any kind of landscaping design. So that's a considerable concern. And also how this hooks into a broader transit plan and active transit plan. That's certainly not the priority presented in these concept plans. So to realize that this is already being approved, that we're just looking at an amendment today, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, an amendment of a shifting of density to allow more units. And I personally feel that all we're doing is allowing more units with no public benefit at this point and no real impact on density use of the commercial without a major change to the concept. So yeah, I would have difficulty supporting this amendment as well without seeing something more. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. So a couple of quick things just for both committees. Important to, and as Councillor Cotto just mentioned, so today we're discussing the amendments to transfer the population or the commercial to residential population. So if we do, for our committee or both committees, I guess I'll say for both committees, decide that we don't accept this change in the amendment, we would have to give reason, and clerk, please correct me if I'm wrong, we'd have to get reason why we don't believe this follows under the NPS, and maybe this might be staff NPS related to this discussion today around transferring the residential and commercial. So it's our will to agree or to not agree, but we do have to remember that we would also have to capture either in the minutes or with the refusal why we're doing it related to the NPS. Also, because it's a little different this time around, if one committee doesn't approve it and the other does, it is a failed motion. So both committees have to agree to this in order for it to pass. So, you know, whether or not Halifax West or other way around, agree or don't agree with both approvals from the committee, this is a failed a motion and the amendment doesn't go forward. So with that, I don't see anyone else. I just really quickly, if anyone has any other comments before we call for the question.
Yes, Councillor Morse here. I would like to make a comment that I certainly agree about the traffic concerns, and I'd just like to add that some of the residents of Kearney Lake live in my district, in District 10, and they're very concerned about the use and overuse of the recreation area at Kearney Lake, which is managed by the city, by HRM. They feel that there's so much use, it's become overpopular at Kearney Lake, and they're concerned about the water impact on water quality. They're concerned about just so many things about conflicting uses of that incredible public recreation asset that we have there. It's a well-known, well-regarded canoeing and kayaking lake, and it's also a public beach and one of the few public beaches in the Halifax area that is accessible by Metro Transit. So it's open to a lot of people, and here we have this wonderful lake, and we seem to be having a huge amount of development around the lake without any plan for the impact on this incredible recreational asset that we have. So I guess I just wanted to put in there that this is just another change in the development pattern around the lake where we don't really have a plan to protect the lake itself. Thank you.
Great, thank you for that. So really quickly for me as the chair, I don't see anyone else putting their hand up, so I'll just speak from my chair as the chair, and then pass it on to, well, actually I'll call for the question afterwards, but really for me, I agree with most of the comments made by my colleagues in terms of the master planning and development in general. I think that if we were to look at this today, we as council now would have probably asked for changes or to look at how this master plan looks in functions in how that integrates with the community. But we're here today and it's been approved, and unfortunately to me, I can't look at the NPS and see other than some of the comments around traffic, but when we look at the traffic impact statement and the sewer capacity, all the reports were positive. And I can't, go against those because I'm not an expert in that world at all. So I can't say whether that's true or not. But I do agree that I would have never supported this from the initial point. And today, looking at the transfer of residential to commercial, that does concern me because again, it adds the fact that we're enabling, not a great planning development as a whole, and adding more people to something that isn't connected. But when I think of the NPS and what we're allowing in that sense, I do support that. And we'll vote for it, not because I like the development, but I can't point to anything within the NPS that doesn't support this change. So with that, I will call for the question from my colleagues in Halifax West. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And all those opposed say nay.
Nay.
We'll have to do a roll call vote.
Yep, we're going to do roll call because I can't keep track of that. I know there's 2 and 2, and that we're missing some. So if clerk, if you can please do a quick roll call, that'd be great.
Yeah, we'll just note that this is not necessarily a recorded vote, but we're just making sure that all members have voted. So I'm just going to go in the order that I have you written down. Councillor Mason.
For the motion.
Councillor Cleary.
Against the motion.
Councillor Morris.
Against the motion.
Councillor Cuddle.
Against the motion.
Councillor Stoddart. You're muted, Councillor Stoddart, sorry.
Thank you. Against the motion.
And Councillor Smith.
For.
That motion has been defeated.
So that motion is defeated. So we have two. Well, I guess there's two pieces here. One that no matter if Northwest. Is it Northwest? Okay, Northwest.
Yes.
Agrees or not, this motion overall passes for the amendment, or fails for the amendment. But because we are here tonight, I think it's important that that you, as the other committee, get to debate and have your discussion and vote. So just as a FYI for those watching, that this will automatically fail. But the committee, or Northwest, God, goodness gracious, this is weird. Northwest will now debate and vote on the matter. So I'll pass it on to the chair.
All right. Thank you very much, Councillor Smith. Much appreciated. So now is the opportunity for members of Northwest Community Council to speak on this motion.
Could I start, Lisa, if you wouldn't mind?
Yeah, I don't have anybody signed up. So Deputy Mayor Althit, if you want to start, you go ahead, sir.
Put the motion.
I want to start, and before I put any motion on the floor, I want to make very clear that as Lindell said, Councillor Smith said, certainly things have changed when some of these developments were originally approved, and I think that things have become better. And certainly, if there was anything that I would recommend going forward when we do things like Port Wallace, which is another master planned area, would be that we get transit in there much sooner, because while there is great density in this area and great density in West Bedford, it is too car dependent. And so I don't completely disagree with Rapunzel there in his tower, and so I think we can do better. And one of those things would be to get in transportation. I think the other thing we have to remember is that the previous council did unanimously approve a plan for the West Bedford infrastructure to funding with the CCCs, the capital cost contributions, to put in another set of lights, active transit trail, and paths rather, and of course another set of lights as well as the roundabout. So things will get better on that stretch. And of course, we heard earlier today on the Transportation Committee that the Park and Ride and Transit Facility is beginning construction in the spring as well. So we will have some improvements. However, I am very concerned, as I mentioned in my comments, and maybe the speaker didn't hear these, I am very concerned about the traffic on this road, and I am very concerned that this roundabout is at capacity. So that hasn't changed. I think that it's going to be a little bit of stretch to see if we defeat this, that it'll stand up to appeal or not, but so be it. In the meantime, what I would like to do, if this is with, and do we have a solicitor with us tonight? I'd like to, if this was in order, I would like to defer a decision by our community council until I get some more facts on this. I want to know exactly, or more exactly, the amount of the traffic increase. I think that's a very good question. And unfortunately, the planner couldn't give us a very definitive answer on that, other than it would be a minor increase. I'd like to dig into that more. And I'd like to dig into more of us having discussions with the province on improvements to what I refer to as roundabout number 3, which is owned by TIR. So I could just check with the solicitor to make sure that a deferral till we get further information is in order.
Yes, Meg
All right.
McDougall, solicitor, through you, Madam Chair, to the councillor. It would be appropriate to defer. You would have to put the motion on the floor first, and then you would put in a motion to defer. No? Sorry, Ms. Clerk.
Walk us through this process, Krista. How do we do this, girl?
Sorry, at any time, a motion to defer is in order, so you don't have to put the main motion on the floor first. So you can just put a motion to defer, and if you want to ask for additional clarification, just let us know what you're looking for.
All right, and thank you. The method in the madness here is that I think if we just if we deferred this tonight, or sorry, if we defeated this tonight, that it would just be appealed. Because as Lindell quite said, that this probably meets the reasonableness test of the MPS, that as staff mentioned in their recommendation. I do have significant concerns, as do some residents. So if we could get the answers on the exact or a more exact impact on traffic on as a result of shifting the designation, the density, and also I think we're going to have to try and get some plans into the province. If that is the case, if the province says we have no plans, and if staff comes back and said yes, there indeed would be, a fair bit of increase, then I might be happy bringing this back to council and perhaps community council, and perhaps we'll have to defeat it as well, and then the developer could try their luck at the UARB. But in the meantime, I think we need a little bit more information to do our due diligence before we potentially defeat this. So I would ask that my community council colleagues support a deferral.
All right, so I will, speaking of deferrals, I will defer to the clerk on this. So what is the process here if we have one community council that has voted it down and one community council that has voted to defer?
Yeah, so I was just prepared to answer that, and I can also, I got Meg here just in case. So basically, the section 222 of the municipal charter allows for joint public hearings to be held together, and that's more in keeping, so the general public doesn't have to come out twice.
Correct.
And speak twice. However, this is why it was in discussion with legal, it was decided that it needed to be split out, because in the chance that one disagrees over the other, it sort of isn't necessarily balanced in terms of voting. So you need, the other piece is that you do need both to approve in order to move forward, because it's a building. However, we've heard from Halifax and West, that decision is done. A deferral on Northwest, Northwest still needs to make a decision no matter what. So even if they want to defer to get more information to then make a sound decision, that is still well within order.
Okay, and the process would be that Northwest Community Council would deal with this at an upcoming meeting of Northwest Community Council. We wouldn't necessarily have to convene a joint.
No, that's correct.
meeting.
You are done your joint piece by holding the public hearing. You have closed the public hearing, and now it is solely on Northwest to make their decision how they see fit.
Okay.
Chair, could I jump in again? Because I was deferring this to try and get more information, because I think maybe we could make a more informed decision as community council, Northwest Community Council. However, if one party has already defeated this, is it not rather moot then that we even go forward? I mean, is it not dead regardless of how we vote? So we might as well just go ahead with the vote. I guess I need a legal opinion and the clerk's opinion on that as well, because if I'm just prolonging the inevitable, other than perhaps building some arguments, if it's appeal to the ARB one way or the other. If I'm prolonging the inevitable that this has been defeated, then I'll ask my colleagues to go ahead and vote.
All right, Meg, help us out. Help us out here.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, to the councillor. This is an amending development agreement. So this agreement would have to be registered on the entire parcel of land. It cannot be only registered on part of the land. So that's why we're talking about how if one community council is saying yes and the other is saying no, we can't just register it on the part that is, unless planning staff is more familiar with the land development and the actual, I don't have property online in front of me to be able to discuss how the land is actually subdivided. If planning could jump in and answer that question, if there is a subdivision possibility, but I don't believe that would be possible based on what I'm looking at.
All right.
Thank you. Did you want me to jump in, sorry, Madam Chair?
Sure, yes. Yeah, if you have anything to add to this.
I'm not sure I do, but I just wanted to kind of speak to the subdivision application or the subdivision of the land. I don't think it could be broken out because of the way the population density are allocated across all of land. That's why other property owners are also being brought into this amending agreement. So I don't think there is a way to subdivide it all.
All right. Just looking at the chat, I think Councillor Russell, you have a comment on the deferral. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. I have changed my audio setup, so I'm not sure if you guys can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Beautiful. So I agree with all sorts of the comments that have been made so far. I will second the deferral. Thank you. And the I would look to defer it. I would look to get more information. One of the pieces of additional information that I would look to get would hopefully satisfy Councillor Cuttle with what would happen with the snow clearing, the results from the snow clearing. Where would that go? Would that simply be wastewater? Would it go down eventually into the lake? The second thing that I'm not entirely sure about, and the reason I don't like this development, or one of the reasons I don't like this development, is because I see a missed opportunity with being able to go from this development to Kearney Lake Road. That entire corner is blocked off with a utility something, and it would be interesting, better, etc., to see what could be done with that. So if we are looking for reasons for the deferral, then I would appreciate it. Then I would make an amendment to the deferral, I guess, to add those two pieces of information about where the snow clearing would go, and if we can answer why the bottom right corner of that, again, I'm looking at Schedule K, which looks like it was April 2020, would have been a utility area instead of any sort of access to Kearney Lake Road.
I'm fine viewing that as a friendly amendment. I think we have the answer to the utility question already, and the fact that the folks down there were actually viewed that as good news in the Kearney Lake area. But I'm fine with that as a friendly amendment if that's helpful.
All right. So the deferral has been put on the floor by Deputy Mayor Alsip. We do need a seconder for the deferral. Do we have a seconder for the deferral from Northwest?
I did second that in the middle of my comments.
Oh, did you? I'm sorry. Okay. It was hidden in there. So we do have a seconder in Councillor Russell. And Councillor Smith, you have a question of clarification. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so this is not on the deferral because I think I can't technically speak on a deferral from Northwest.
That's correct.
Right. So my clarification question is process, because I think Tim hit on it earlier that I don't know if this deferral, and again, it's up to Northwest and that's up to you voting, but I just don't know if the deferral is actually going to help this process, because I believe so that even if this, well, it's going to fail because of Halifax West, can the applicant still go back and reapply again with a revision, or what happens after this? So we know there's the appeal, the UARB, but what other options are there? Because I don't know if doing a deferral actually does anything for our decision that we have tonight.
You're
So
just
what are the
looking for the
options?
path forward.
Right,
Chair,
right. And
I'm
I see Ms.
seeing-
Holm came on the screen, so I will.
All right.
I was going to say, I see Maggie. Can we, it's Tim here.
Yes.
Can we ask
Yes.
Maggie to speak to us? Thanks.
Hi there, Maggie. Hello, welcome.
Good evening, all of the councillors. I have two of my community councils here. And for those that don't know me, my name is Maggie Holm. I'm the principal planner with the Urban Enabled Planning Group. To answer, I think what the first question was that Councillor Out that had referred to was, a short answer to that is you need two yeses. Both community councils need to give the yes in order for this to move forward to a position where the applicant could apply for permits. Presently, Halifax and West has refused the application, so even if Northwest Community Council said yes to the application would not be in a position to move forward and apply for permits. So the application would be complete, I guess is probably a good way to put it. Councillor Smith, you mentioned an appeal. That's correct. There would be an appeal to the UARB that the applicant could then apply, go to the board and appeal the decision of, I guess in this case it would be Halifax and West's refusal. Pending the outcome of what that might be, whether the board would uphold or overturn Halifax and West's refusal, the applicant, if the board said, yeah, it's fine, we're gonna side with Halifax and West, the applicant would have to make a new application. So they would come back in with, I would assume, modifications based on what they've heard here this evening and throughout this planning application. But I guess their next line of action would be to make another application for what they've applied for this evening, more or less, with perhaps some modifications based on what they've heard. So I'm not sure if I answered all of the questions. There were quite a few bouncing around there.
All right, thank you, Maggie. Tim, do you have anything to follow up?
And Maggie then, so I guess my question for you, and Maggie, thank you for jumping in. My question for you then, and if one party has already said no when it's dead, then why don't we just end it?
That is up to council to do, but you know, you use the word prolong, and I think that's probably a good way of describing it. You would be, I mean, it's in council's purview to make that request for a supplementary report and get additional information to help you make your decision. But if you're more interested in concluding the process, then perhaps that's not the most expeditious way forward, because in essence, Halifax and West has refused, and there is no way at this point for the application to be successful.
Well, let's just go ahead with the vote then, and I think I'll withdraw my deferral. Let's go ahead with the vote. I guess we have to go, in order to close the file, we have to have the vote either way. We can't just refuse to hear it, I assume.
Okay.
And then we'll take it from, there, and they can come back and bring forth the information that I want. I guess so. We got two options. So it just seems strange to me to go ahead and ask my community council colleagues to have a vote if something's already defeated and not going anywhere.
I think the clerk would chime in here, Krista, and say there's a motion on the floor and it needs to be
absolutely. Yeah.
Right. Well, then let's go ahead with the vote. I'll withdraw the deferral, and thank you to everyone. This is a bit of a new one to me. To all you rookies here tonight, we're all learning. So, and thank you very much, Maggie and Legal and Krista, for guiding us.
All right.
Sorry, in terms of the deferral. Yeah, sorry. In terms of the deferral, so if the mover requests for it to be withdrawn, the seconder agrees, and the rest of community council is agreeable, then it can be withdrawn. And then you would look for a motion to put on the floor of the main motion that's in the agenda and staff report.
All right. I will withdraw my deferral, and I won't put the motion on the floor. We'll see if somebody else wants to.
All right, so the deferral has been withdrawn. The seconder, you have agreed to have it withdrawn?
Yes, and if you would like, I can put the motion on the floor.
All right, you go ahead and put the motion on the floor, sir.
Okay, I move that Northwest Community Council 1 give notice of motion to consider the proposed amending agreement as set out in attachment A to allow the reallocation of commercial density to residential density in Bedford West Sub-Area 9 and schedule a public hearing to be held concurrently with the Halifax and West Community Council. 2, approve the proposed amending agreement, which shall be substantially of the same form as set out in attachment A, and 3, require the amending agreement to be signed by the property owner within 240 days or any extension thereof granted by council on request of the property owner from the date of the final approval by council and any other bodies as necessary, including applicable appeal periods, whichever is later. Otherwise, this appeal will be void and obligations arising hereunder shall be at an end.
So we have a motion. Do we have a seconder?
Second.
Okay.
Seconded by Councillor Lovelace. Councillor Lovelace, you wanted to speak.
Yes, I did. For quite some time, I've been wanting to speak, just because I was confused that the main motion hadn't been put on the floor. We were deferring without the motion being put on the floor. So now I'm pleased to see that we've got to this point, and that we can enter into a debate, into a discussion about this. And being an individual that drives this route, oh my goodness, a dozen times a week, I'm going through this, and it is extremely horrific. As Deputy Mayor Outhit knows, I have spoken to him at great lengths and asked him for support to address some of the traffic concerns in this area in particular. Some of the things that go through my mind when I look at this addition of residential units is, where are the kids going to walk to actually get to the bus? You know, and are they playing in the lovely little parking area? You know, I'm really struggling with understanding the livability of this. You know, I just want to point out to Mr. Murray, Brian Murray, thank you for the call. Thank you for pursuing, you know, and ensuring that your voice was heard. And I just wanted to reach out and say thank you, Mr. Murray, for that, because I have a huge amount of concerns. Stormwater management, you know, if you look at the elevation from this area down towards the Diamond Lebanese area, down towards the road of Kearney Lake and the residential houses that are there, they will have a waterfall in their backyard, especially during spring thaw. You know, and I'm just concerned that we are approving you know, the lack of livability for these children that will be in this building, and for the seniors that will be in this building. And so commercial space, that was already approved. I get that. Moving, I can't support this. So I just wanted to put that out there. And thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to speak.
All right, thank you so much. Councillor Mason.
Well, I was back on the deferral that was still on the floor, but I will say,
okay.
I encourage Northwest to either vote it up or down. Regardless, it has failed, and cumulatively it will still fail. But I think it is the right decision to close it out today, so that the property owners can go away and come back with a new plan. Like, I think that's the way to do it, is to say, yeah, this is done. You know, as a clarification on you know, kind of where I stand, because I didn't speak to it before. It's like, you know, we all know. And I say this in the nicest possible way, and I know the staff are gonna all be laughing, and I hope they're muted, that like the Bedford West, especially the part Bedford West up away from this toward where the school's gonna be, it's all right. Bedford West, where it abuts Bedford South and then all the way down Larry UTEC, was not designed very well, right? I mean, that's what we strive to avoid, and Councillor Outhit knows that too, right? It's not walkable, it's not a complete community, it's none of the things that we want. That being said, just so that the new folks know, the applicants can come in tomorrow and pull permits for what's already been approved, right? Like, there's no stopping them at this point. I do hope, though, that the applicants are listening to us when we say both community councils would love it if you came back with a really aggressive new plan that maybe even required some deeper amendments, and what it would take for you to be able to build that. Certainly, you know, when I had that tour of Bedford West with the folks from Clayton and Wendy Luther, I challenged him. Some of you have heard this story. I said, how come you're building all your buildings 50 feet back from the road, all the tall apartments? And he said, because the Bedford MPS, or the Bedford Land Use Bylaw that was adapted to this site from 1910, requires us to. It was our fault, not his fault. So if there's things they want to do to make it more of a complete community and not have the parking in front of the buildings, and like that might actually be us requiring that, if it's the same kind of bylaws that they have further up into Bedford West. So that's a bigger discussion that we need to have, and I would support having that. So I just wanted to throw that in, since we're now at the point that this is clearly going to come back for another kick at the can. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you, Councillor Mason. Councillor Deagle-Gammon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Boy, part of me wants to just get very technical for a minute, but in terms of the due process, and yes, I think everybody's in agreement that a bad development, a bad plan from the beginning, but it is what it is, and it's there now. And, you know, Councillor Mason, you kind of took a little bit of my thunder. I was like, wow, if. the developers are listening to this, perhaps there is some language and there's some things here that they could take to make it better. However, they do have the approval. This is just to make an amendment. Councillor Smith, when I listened to what you had said just around some of the due process, if this is a technicality, if it's defeated, we have to have good reasons why. It will go to appeal. If I'm understanding correctly, it will go to appeal, and then if it goes to appeal, then does it come back at all, or then it's done? No. And so, you know, the appeal says yes or no. But if we don't have really good reasons that can be substantiated for it not going forward, then the appeal going in favor or against is kind of, I guess I would say anybody's decision in a way, but just if it's only a technicality, then I am hopeful that we have good enough reason that we don't lose this on appeal and that the developer does be able to come back. I am not a fan. I actually drove for the very first time to Larry UTEC last week. I stay away from roundabouts, and I had palpitations going through those roundabouts. I was in the car by myself, thankfully, because I kept thinking, well, if anything happens, it's just me in the car. So yeah, so in terms of the traffic and the roundabouts and all those things that Councillor Rote talked about, I do think that whatever happens in terms of future planning, that we have really good consideration around, you know, the traffic and the impact and the people, and as you had said, around, you know, maybe Port Wall coming, making sure that infrastructure and transit is there. So it's this is definitely a learning curve for myself as a new councillor listening to this kind of discussion and debate. And so I thank you all for your great contributions. It improves my learning curve. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Councillor. All right, so the deferral was put on the floor and then withdrawn, with the agreement of the seconder. We do have a motion on the floor now that has been seconded, and seeing no.
Could I speak again? Could I speak again?
Sure. Yes, you have 3 minutes, Deputy Mayor.
Well, thank you, and thank you for all the great comments. And I do think, and I think Councillor Mason nailed it quite well when he said that West Bedford is different than this and was done quite well in some ways. But yes, there are some things we need to do for the rest of West Bedford to make it even better, and of course to learn for Port Paulus. This area is different, started a lot sooner, and really was one of our first staffs kicked at master planning. So I'm comfortable with this vote happening today. I'm not sure. I think we're voting sort of philosophically on a problem that we have with this type of development and with the traffic, and trying to support our residents, and I'm willing to support that. I think it's going to be hard for us our lawyers to defend this to appeal, but that is what they'll be that they're paid to do, and we'll see where that goes. But I am very encouraged from what I've heard from all of you this evening that future developments wherever in this district or other districts or throughout our HRM are going to get even better and better. So I'm ready for the question if you're ready, Madam Chair and councillors.
All right. Seeing no other speakers from Northwest Community Council or Halifax and West, the question has been called for. Call for the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? All right, and it looks like it has been defeated from the Halifax and West Community Council.
Could we, Madam Chair, just go around? I didn't hear anybody, and I want to just make sure that the public doesn't get the wrong idea.
Yep, absolutely. We will do a roll call. Go ahead, Madam Chair. You call the roll and get the votes.
Oh, I spoke too soon. Oh, just a moment, sorry. All right, Councillor Russell?
Nay.
Councillor Lovelace?
Nay.
Councillor Daigle-Gammon?
Nay.
Deputy Mayor Blackburn, or Deputy Mayor Oathit?
Nay.
Councillor Blackburn?
Voting no on the motion.
That has been defeated.
All right, so the motion has been defeated. That is the end of the public hearing for this, what is it called? 22450, case 22450. We've already done correspondence. No petitions to present, no petitions from members of community council, no. So with that, I ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn from Councillor Cuttle. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, as I stumbled my way through this, but appreciate your patience. And thank you so much, and we will all see you soon.
You did great, Madam Chair. Good night,
Yes.
everyone.
Thank you.